get deep in the beat, think complete.
Eric B. and Rakim are a crucially important part of hip-hop history. From the layers of jazz samples in the production to the next-level rhyming of Rakim, they moved the needle forward. Today, we're looking at their 1992 song, Don't Sweat the Technique, diving into the production, recreating the beat, picking apart Rakim's rhymes, seeing how this was a huge evolutionary step for hip-hop. I mean, I guess we are gonna sweat the technique. We're going to start by talking about where hip-hop came from. We're not going to go all the way back, but let's look at an early hip-hop hit, The Breaks by Kurtis Blow from 1980. Musically, this is a brand new song. There's no sample. Rapper's Delight, another early hit, was an interpolation by live musicians. They heard Good Times by Chic and re-recorded it. But The Breaks has no samples and is not an interpolation. That being said, this is basically a funk, disco, Chic style song. Here's the instrumental for The Breaks. You're going to hear a Nile Rodgers-esque guitar, a driving drum beat. Here we go. I love this song. It feels great. It's a good party vibe. Good funk disco vibe. But now let's look at Don't Sweat the Technique. Now we're jumping ahead 12 years into Don't Sweat the Technique. A lot has happened in between The Breaks and this song. Eric B. and Rakim don't exist in a vacuum. They're part of the entire scene and culture moving things forward. Throughout the 80s, during this time, we get drum machines incorporated into the genre, groups like Run DMC, as well as sampling from producers like the Bomb Squad. We get Public Enemy in 1987, as well as Eric B. and Rakim releasing their debut, Paid in Full, also in 1987. So by the time we get to 1992 with Don't Sweat the Technique, the entire scene has changed and Eric B. and Rakim have evolved themselves. But I've recreated the core of the song in Ableton, and if you're in the producers tier on Patreon, you can go download this recreation right now. This yellow track on top, this is the track Don't Sweat the Technique. Let's take a listen. And as we dive into this, a common misconception is that Rakim did the rhyming and Eric B. did the production. That's not exactly true. Rakim was very involved in production, picking samples he wanted to rap over. Other people like Large Professor were also involved in this album. My suspicion is that there's a lot of uncredited stuff going on, but it's not exclusively Rakim on the rhymes and Eric B. on production. Let me take a quick second and thank the sponsor of today's video. Bombas. Look, you might not think socks are a big deal. I know, I get it. I thought the same. But now, I don't think you get it. These socks are made of premium materials. They have a 100% happiness guarantee, and the best part is, their mission of one purchased equals one donated. That means when you buy a pair of Bombas, they donate a pair. Here's the thing that you can't see, and I'm not gonna show you. They just sent me these, but I'm already wearing them. I did a sponsor thing with them a couple months ago, and I can't get these things off my feet. In a good way. They come off easily. I just don't want them to. This is why I really love Bombas. They make the top 3 requested items of clothing in homeless shelters. That's socks, shirts, and underwear. And to date, they have donated over 150 million items. Feel good and do good with Bombas, knowing your purchase is doing some real good. New customers get 20% off their first purchase. Just go to bombas.com/diggingthegrates and use code diggingthegrates at checkout. There are multiple samples in this. We're going to talk about the core of the track, which is the Kool and the Gang song, Give It Up. So this second track, just below the yellow here, this is the Kool and the Gang song. And what I think is interesting about this is that multiple sample spots are used. For instance, take a listen to this. We got drums. Let's go a little further down. We got that sax line. Even further down. So we have a couple different spots with the full band, including sax, as well as just that drum break by itself. So what I've done is I've copied down onto this track just the drum break. As you can see, I'm also rolling off the highs and boosting the lows. Let's take a listen to that. Directly below that, I've placed the other samples with the full band and the sax, and I've done the exact opposite EQ, rolling off the lows and keeping those highs in there. The reason for this is we're about to layer two samples from the same song on top of each other. I've got it laid out here on the timeline, but I've also put it in the drum rack on the push. So check this out. Here's the drums. Here's the first sax break. And here's the second. If we play them both at the same time, both sectioning off the highs and the lows, let's take a listen to that. Then, of course, we get to the bass. The bass sample comes from the song Queen of the Nile by Young Holt Unlimited. That first Kool and the Gang sample was a little jazzy. This is straight up jazz. Let's take a listen. All right, I'm going to scroll all the way down on this track until we get to the spot that we need, which is the bass sample. And as a bass player, what I think is so fascinating about this sample is that it's not just a bass line, it's a bass solo. It's an improvised solo. And here's the thing. In the jazz world, there are so many jokes about bass solos. So here is the iconic bass sample taken from the bass solo on Queen of the Nile. All right, I've taken that bass sample, I've sped it up, I've pitched it up a little bit, I've boosted the lows, I've rolled off the highs, I've compressed it a little bit, and I've also made it mono because that bass is panned hard to one side and we don't want that. All right, let's put all of this together at the same time. I've put all these samples into the drum rack. This, of course, would not have been performed like this. I just think layering them all and seeing them all happen at the same time is amazing. If you enjoyed this video, would you do me a favor and click the like button? I've also seen something on other YouTube videos where you say, like, the subscribe button down there, it glows. And I don't know how to make it do that. So if I say, hit the subscribe button down there, does it glow? Let me know. And of course, hit it if it's glowing. Now let's talk about the lyrics. First, going back to the breaks, let's talk about Kurtis Blow's rhyming. Now, I'm not here to speak ill of it at all. We're just looking at this from a historical perspective. I'm going to write out the first verse for the breaks by Kurtis Blow. The part I'm not going to write out is the response, that's the breaks, because you get it.
If your woman steps out with another man, she runs off to them to Japan. And the IRS said they want to chat. And you can't explain why you claimed your cat. And Ma Bell sends you a whopping bill with 18 phone calls to Brazil. And you borrowed money from the mob. And yesterday you lost your job.
We got man and Japan rhyming, right? Great. And the IRS says they want to chat. And you can't explain why you claimed your cat. And Ma Bell sends you a whopping bill with 18 phone calls to Brazil. Probably worth it. Shout out to everyone watching from Brazil. And you borrowed money from the mob, and yesterday you lost your job. As you can see, we got rhymes at the end of every line. Man, Japan, chat, cat, bill, Brazil, mob, and job. A lot of these lines start with and, although that's not really rhyming, and there's nothing else between the lines that are rhyming. That's how hip-hop started, is with the DJ, and then the MC would grab the mic, hype people up, get some rhymes going. But Rakim represents a huge step forward. This is true across all his rhyming, but let's take a specific look at the third verse of Don't Sweat the Technique.
I speak and the squeak is more than cheap. Then I get deep in the beat. Think me, pull with the Z, never weak and obsolete. They never go old. Techniques become antique, better than something brand new. Cause it's written in a while that I have much more value. Classical, too intelligent to be radical. Masterful, never irrelevant, mathematical. Here's some souvenirs for all the years you fought, sort of thoughts and ideas. It's cool when you freak to the beat. Well, don't sweat the technique.
All right, so first line, I speak indiscreet because talk is cheap. Triple rhyme. But then I get deep in the beat, then complete. The poem's physique never weak or obsolete. They never grow old, techniques become antiques. Take a quick pause because on the breaks, we had at most 2 words rhyming together before moving on to something else. Here in the first line, we have 3, speak indiscreet, cheap, deep beat, complete, physique, never weak, obsolete, techniques, antiques. And of course, he's saying he completes the poem's physique. It's not weak or obsolete. He's doing what he's saying. Next line, better than something brand new because it's real. It's kind of hard to hear what he says on the actual track. I think it's real, and regardless, it's gonna tie in an interesting way with the next phrase. And in a while, this style will have much more value. While, style, and value, the way he delivers the word value sort of soft rhymes with style, which is another sort of soft rhyme with real, especially the way that he says it on the record. So I'm not gonna highlight this real because it's not quite an exact rhyme, but they are sort of linked together here, and this sort of acts as a bridge coming out of this E rhyming scheme over and over into the next section. This top section up here, this E section, by the way, this has 11 total rhymes. Let's keep moving on. Classical, too intelligent to be radical. We got classical and radical. Next phrase, masterful, never irrelevant, mathematical. We have masterful and mathematical, which also rhymes with classical and radical. But did you catch the other rhyme? In the middle of both of these phrases, we have intelligent and irrelevant. Here's some soothing souvenirs for all the years you fought and sought the thoughts and ideas. So first of all, we've got souvenirs, years, and ideas. And then we got fought, sought, and thought all being internal. But there's even more, because yes, we have the rhyming at the end here. We have souvenir and years rhyming in the middle with the end. We have fought, sought, thought, all internal. And we've had an internal rhyme before, which is this right here, intelligent and irrelevant, right? But what's different about this one is we have some alliteration happening. Some soothing souvenirs, lots of S's right there. We have two F's right there. For all the years you fought and sought the thoughts and ideas. We have that TH sound. Some soothing souvenirs for all the years you fought and sought the thoughts and ideas. We have multiple rhyme schemes happening, alliteration, all of it within these couple lines. Then, of course, we end with, it's cool when you freak to the beat, but don't sweat the technique. Wait a minute. You hear that? We have the return of the same rhyme scheme from the beginning. We are starting with a triple rhyme right on the first, and we are ending with a triple rhyme at the end. We've got beginning and ending rhymes, internal rhymes, alliteration, a callback to the original rhyme scheme. There is a reason they call him the God Rakim.
I speak and the squeak is talking cheap. Then I get deep and the beat thick. Pull with the Z, never weak and obsolete. They never grow old. Techniques become antique. Better than something brand new, cause it's written in a while. That I have much more value. Classical, too intelligent to be radical. Masterful, never irrelevant, mathematical. Here's some souvenirs for all the years. You fought and sought the thoughts and ideas. It's cool when you freak to the beat. But don't sweat the technique.
This album came out in 1992 and was Eric B. and Rakim's final project together. But think about what was happening in 1992. We got The Chronic, Dr. Dre on the West Coast. Native Tongues, we're right in the middle of that. We got Low End Theory. The next year, 1993, is when Midnight Marauders comes out. The year after that, we get Illmatic. Eric B. and Rakim, musically and lyrically, are massive influences on all of that. And when you break it down like this and actually sweat the technique, it's easy to see why. As I mentioned, another person who worked on this album production-wise was Large Professor. He would go on to produce It Ain't Hard to Tell for Nas, which actually has 3 different versions: the demo, the record, and the remix. But for that story, you gotta click here.